In the early hours of June 13, 2025, the skies over Iran lit up with explosions. Israel had launched a massive military operation codenamed Operation Rising Lion. This was not a small, limited strike. It was a large-scale attack involving the Israel Defense Forces and its intelligence agency, Mossad. Reports indicate it is the biggest military action against Iran since the Iran-Iraq War, which was decades ago. The operation was designed to hit multiple critical locations at once, creating a sense of overwhelming force and precision that caught many by surprise. The coordination was immense, suggesting months, if not years, of meticulous planning and intelligence gathering. The targets were carefully chosen to cripple Iran's military and nuclear capabilities. Israeli warplanes numbering over 200 flew deep into Iranian airspace. They struck key nuclear facilities, places like Natanz and Kandab, which have long been at the center of international concern. The attacks also hit military command centers and missile infrastructure across the country. The goal was clearly to dismantle the very heart of Iran's strategic power. This was far more than a warning shot. It was a determined effort to set back Iran's programs by a significant margin, sending an unmistakable message about Israel's resolve. Beyond military hardware, the operation took a personal and devastating toll on Iran's leadership. The strikes targeted the private homes of senior officials. High-ranking military leaders, including Hossein Salami, the commander of the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and Mohammad Bagheri, the chief of staff of the armed forces, were reported among the dead. The loss of such experienced and central figures in a single night creates a massive leadership vacuum within Iran's defense establishment. It demonstrates an incredible level of intelligence, showing that Israel knew exactly where to find these individuals. The operation's success was partly due to sophisticated sabotage missions on the ground. Mossad agents reportedly played a crucial role. They are said to have disabled parts of Iran's air defense systems just before the Israeli jets arrived. This allowed the aircraft to reach their targets with less resistance. Furthermore, reports suggest Mossad operated a secret drone base near Tehran, which was used to strike missile launchers. This combination of air power and covert ground operations ensured the attack was both effective and devastating, securing Israeli air superiority during the critical opening hours of the assault. The primary reason for this drastic action, according to Israel, was Iran's advancing nuclear program. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed his nation and the world, calling the attack a necessary preemptive strike. He stated that Iran was on the verge of being able to produce a nuclear weapon within a few months. In his view, this represented a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. This fear of a nuclear-armed Iran has been a cornerstone of Israeli security policy for years, and leaders have repeatedly said they would not allow it to happen. The timing of the attack was not random. It came just one day after a critical report from the International Atomic Energy Agency, the world's nuclear watchdog. On June 12, 2025, the IAEA found that Iran was officially not complying with its nuclear obligations for the first time in 20 years. This was a major development. In response to the finding, Iran defiantly announced it would build a new uranium enrichment site. This escalation likely convinced Israeli leaders that diplomatic options had run out and that Iran was determined to push forward with its nuclear ambitions regardless of international pressure. For months, the situation had been getting more serious. Iran was already enriching uranium to 60% purity, a level that has no credible civilian purpose and is just a short technical step away from the 90% needed for a bomb. It was also installing advanced centrifuges that could produce enriched uranium much faster. A security think tank had estimated in May 2024 that Iran could soon have enough material for one nuclear bomb in just a week. For Israel, this accelerated timeline meant the window to act was closing fast, forcing a difficult and high-stakes decision. Prime Minister Netanyahu made it clear that this operation was not over. He declared that the strikes would continue for as many days as it takes to achieve Israel's objectives. This statement signals that Operation Rising Lion is not a one-time event, but the start of a sustained campaign. Israel appears committed to degrading Iran's capabilities to a point where the nuclear threat is neutralized for the foreseeable future. The goal is not just to delay the program but to fundamentally dismantle it, ensuring that Iran cannot easily rebuild what has been destroyed. For years, Israel and Iran have been engaged in what is often called a shadow war. This conflict has been fought through covert operations, cyber attacks, and proxy forces across the Middle East. Israel has been blamed for assassinating Iranian nuclear scientists and for mysterious explosions at Iranian military sites. Iran in turn has supported groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, which have fought wars with Israel. This long-running, low-level conflict has been a defining feature of the region's geopolitics, simmering with tension just below the surface of outright war. The relationship between the two nations was not always this hostile. Before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran and Israel had relatively normal ties. However, after the revolution, Iran's new leadership adopted a deeply anti-Israel ideology, viewing it as an illegitimate state and an enemy of Islam. Since then, the hostility has only grown. A major point of contention has been Iran's nuclear program. Israel sees Iran with nuclear weapons as an existential threat, a danger that could lead to the destruction of the Jewish state, something Iranian leaders have called for in the past. This long history of animosity has been punctuated by moments of direct, though often deniable, confrontation. In October 2024, for example, previous Israeli airstrikes were reported to have damaged Iran's S-300 air defense systems. Another strike reportedly destroyed a nuclear weapons research facility in Parchin. These actions were part of a strategy to consistently disrupt and degrade Iran's capabilities without triggering a full-scale war. Operation Rising Lion represents a dramatic departure from this strategy, moving the conflict from the shadows into the open light of day. The decision to launch such a large-scale, overt attack reflects a calculation in Israel that the risks of inaction had become greater than the risks of war. The combination of Iran's nuclear progress, its public defiance of the IAEA, and the perceived closing window for effective military action all contributed to this shift. The shadow war, with its limited strikes and assassinations, was no longer seen as sufficient to stop the nuclear threat. Israel has now crossed a threshold, betting that a bold, decisive strike is the only way to ensure its long-term security in a volatile region. The immediate international reaction has been one of shock and deep concern. The United States, a key Israeli ally, was notified of the attack before it began. White House officials stated that Israel told them it was fully ready to act. While the United States did not participate directly in the military operation, it is now considering support options, such as providing more intelligence and military supplies to Israel. In a clear sign of the heightened tension, the United States government has ordered non-essential staff to leave its embassy in Iraq and has restricted the movement of its diplomats in Jerusalem. Iran's response is now the most critical question. Its state media has been filled with furious condemnations, promising a crushing and unprecedented retaliation against Israel. However, the country is facing a crisis. With many of its top military leaders killed and key facilities destroyed, its ability to coordinate a powerful counterattack may be weakened. The world is now watching to see if Iran will launch its own missiles, activate its proxy forces like Hezbollah, or pursue a different path. The potential for a massive, region-wide war is now higher than it has been in decades. Inside Israel, the government has declared a nationwide state of emergency. Air raid sirens have been activated across the country as the nation braces for the inevitable Iranian counterattack. Citizens have been instructed to stay near bomb shelters, and the military is on its highest alert. The mood is tense, a mixture of resolve and anxiety. Israelis are accustomed to security threats, but the scale of this potential confrontation is different. The entire country is now on a war footing, waiting for the other shoe to drop in this dangerous and unpredictable conflict. This event marks a pivotal moment for the Middle East and the world. Operation Rising Lion has shattered the fragile status quo, replacing the shadow war with open conflict between two of the region's most powerful nations. The coming days will be critical. The world's major powers will likely push for de-escalation, but it may be too late. The cycle of attack and retaliation could spiral out of control, leading to a devastating war with global consequences. For now, the world can only watch and wait and hope that leaders on all sides can find a way back from the brink.